Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Well, hello and welcome to a video I am so excited to be making for you. It is a weird type of weather today. Like, it's really warm inside my apartment because the sun is shining, so we're wearing a tank top, but it is December, so you know, things are weird. But if you clicked on this video, then you know that this is going to be 10 fan fictions that you need to read. And when I was looking back to see what were the last fan fictions that I had talked about, because I have made 2 or 3 previous videos with my favorite fan fictions. I actually have a playlist that has all of my fanfic reads and recommendations, which I'll link up there. I've done 2 different fan fiction readathons. If you are new to my channel or you're new to fanfic, I'll be doing another one of these early next year, hopefully. We'll see. But yeah, I've done 2 of those before. I myself really got into fan fiction, specifically Hermione fan fiction, because I had read some before, but I really got into it with, Manacled, like so many people do, in the December of 2021. So it's been 2 years now that I've been reading it. I've read over 100 fanfics now at this point. 95% of them are going to be focused on Harry Potter fanfic. I get people all the time asking me, are you going to try others? Do you want to try Outlander? Are you going to do some for Vampire Diaries? Are you going to do this or that? The answer is probably not. Probably not. You yourself will have to go digging for those ones if you want them. I know on Instagram there are a few of my friends who read like Stranger Things ones. They've done some supernatural ones, and that's all cool, but like that's not my thing. My purpose for living and breathing is Harry Potter fanfics. Now, if people want to chew me out because they don't want me to be talking about stuff that, is from J.K. Rowling, I gotta tell you, again, not the channel for you to be watching. I'm not reading these as a statement on J.K. Rowling's character. It's just not. In fact, fan fiction is technically, if we want to call it its basis thing, it is ripping off the work of someone else. We can say we're inspired by, we can say it like gave us the idea for it, but at its basis truth, we're taking characters and situations and worlds created by someone else and not, making our own thing. We're doing that, okay? So if you want to break it down to its basic thing, fan fiction is kind of, ripping off things for our own entertainment, all right? So if you want to be one of the people that in my comments is telling me, please stop talking about Harry Potter fan fiction because it upholds J.K. Rowling, just walk yourself right on out, okay? Because I don't want to hear it. Wow, can you tell I'm a little bitter about it? I have had people who want to play the morality police with me and play it, and I'm like, I'm not giving J.K. Rowling a single penny by reading fanfic. I'm not giving anyone a penny by doing that. So I'm not really sure how it uplifts her at all. I just want to read sexy, smutty fanfic that gives me a thrill, okay? So, okay, that's enough of my disclaimer at the front end. I don't only have Harry Potter fanfic to share today, but we'll just say that 9 out of the 10 of them are well, 8 out of the 10 of them are, I guess, because one of the other ones as well maybe touches on something else. So there's that. So I have 10. I actually think that I have like 12 here, but I'm gonna call the video 10 because that's a hot number for people. And we're going to go through my favorite ones that I read this year. So I'm very excited to do that. I do have my notes down here because I read so many of these, and honestly, so many of them have a lot of like similar parts, right? Because, we're using the same characters and then putting them in the different situations. So there's a lot of overlap. But yeah, I do have also a good half of this list. I think exactly half of this list is Hermione, but I do have some other pairings in here to share as well because I do like to read some forbidden age gaps as well, and that makes its way into this. I also forgot to write this one on my list, but I want to start with one just real fast because I forgot to put it on here. There's one called At Last by DC Fitzpatrick, which I really like this fic writer, and they did one that was inspired by Sense and Sensibility. And it is a Marianne Dashwood and Colonel Christopher Brandon fanfic. And it is so hot. It is a slow burn, but then once the burn has started, it is just smutty good times for the whole rest of it. And I loved it so much. Yeah, I adored my time with this one. So again, all of these fanfics, I will have links to the AO3 or fanfiction.net link down below. If you want to know how to get these fanfictions put onto your device, you'll want to check out my playlist right there. I'm not going to go over how to do that in this one because I've talked about it multiple times before. But anyway, At Last by DC Fitzpatrick. If you want Jane Austen but sex it up, this is the one for you. It still has some of that beautiful angst you want to get out of the Marianne and Brandon relationship, but we get to the sexy times eventually too. And I really like that about What Is Up With You? Okay, so then I actually do have a couple of these bound because my friend Mel, she binds some of these for me as gifts. You should never buy a fanfic anywhere. I don't know if some of you have seen these ads pop up on your Facebook or Instagram. Maybe you do if you like fanfic, but there's a company that's trying to sell copies of Manacled that is a scam. And even if it's not a scam, even if you were going to get what you paid for, that is illegal. It is illegal. That is why, like I said, I don't pay a penny for these because you can't make money off of someone else's like product that way. Okay. Sorry. Side note. So if you ever see someone who's trying to sell this as like they're making money off of it, you should run away. There are some people who do commissions. Maybe you'll find some of those people. But for me, all the fanfics I own physically are gifts from me. I have 3 different friends who've made me fics over the years. And so again, that's why I have some of these, but I did not pay for any of them. Okay. All right. Enough of that. So this is the Heartbreak Prince. This one is by Diasterisms. And as you can tell maybe from this is a Raylo fanfic, but it's as if like a bunch of the Star Wars characters and there's a few Harry Potter characters are all at Hogwarts. Okay. And for this one, we have Ben Solo, who has come to Hogwarts, and he is, oh, Jesus. And he is teaching a class. And so this is a forbidden student teacher romance. And so there's also some BDSM dynamics in this one. There's some bondage, edging, size difference, praise, degradation. It has all of the stuff in here. This is very smutty, very much. But yeah, it also has the angst of being a student teacher relationship. And then there still is like a Dark Lord type figure that we're trying to take down. But there are a lot more like Star Wars characters in this one than there are like Hogwarts characters in this one. So, you know, like there's Ben Kenobi is teaching a class, and there's a Professor Yoda who is kind of like the Professor Binns, you know, he's like ghost version of himself. So yeah, this one, I had a great time with this one. And I had been putting off reading this one for so long, and then Mel sent me this one for my birthday, so I was really excited to read this. I did end up reading the version on my Kindle because that's how it works out. Some of these fics are so big, they literally hurt my wrist to hold them, but look at the beautiful back on this one. So anyway, yeah, really like that one. Then there is another one that I actually own this one too. There is Isolation by Bex Chan. This one is a very popular one. There are still some of the very big old popular fics that I have not gotten around to yet, and this was one of them. Look at that one. Isn't that amazing? Fantastic. Mel is so skilled. So this one is very interesting because this one is a like 7th year fic, I believe, and Draco is under like house arrest kind of at Hogwarts. So he has been like caught, and instead of him like going to Azkaban, he gets sent to Hogwarts, where McGonagall is the headmistress right now, and he gets put under magical house arrest. And Hermione, who is like head girl at this point, she gets left behind actually by Ron and Harry while they're Horcrux hunting, and she has to go back to school in this one, and she's kind of put in charge of like keeping an eye on Malfoy. So he has a bunch of spells done on him where he's not able to leave, but she's the one who they're like sharing kind of like prefect quarters. So like they each have their own bedroom, but then they have like a dorm in the middle that they share, right? And she's kind of keeping an eye on him. So this one is them in forced proximity. And this one starts with a very mean Draco, okay? Because he still is full on like bought into a lot of the Death Eater stuff. But him and Hermione being like forced into proximity with each other, you know, that slowly starts to change over time. And we still have to, in this one, defeat the Death Eaters by the end of this one. So this one, I gave this one 4.5 stars. I should say what the rating was. This one is a very slow burn. It has a bit of a toxic relationship between them because a lot of their sexy times in the beginning starts with them doing things and then Draco having a lot of regret for it happening, you know? So there's a little bit of that push and pull going on. But this one does have, I should have been sharing this. There's a podfic for this one as well. If you don't know, some fics, particularly the ones that are going to be Dramini ones, is the ones you'll have the most luck finding, have been done in a pod form, and you can find them on Spotify. So this is one that I listened to it on Spotify. So yeah, this was a good one. All right. Oh, see, my wrist hurts just holding that up for a little bit. Now, the rest of these, I don't have covers for all of them. So if I don't end up putting a picture up for one, it's because it doesn't have a cover. But some of them do because people have made artwork for them, just so you know. But again, the links to all of them are down below. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's down there. All right. Then there was Squirm by Mr. Benzedrine, I think is how you say it. And this one is a shorter one, and it's like a horror one to some degree, okay? So this one is a Dramini, and this one was just a random one that I found. I think I found this one. Is this one on fanfic.net or AO3? I think it's on AO3. But this one is, it starts as like a office romance type thing between Draco and Hermione. And it becomes clear as things like escalate between the two of them that there's something wrong with Draco. So I don't want to spoil any more than that. But again, this one isn't super long. It would be considered like a novella length. And it does have a horror element in it. It has some torture involved in it. And it involves something being wrong with Draco. That's just what I'll say. And this one, I actually read this one on a plane when I was coming back from Book Bonanza, and it like freaked me the hell out because I am not a horror reader, but it was just enough of it that I enjoyed myself. Like, it wasn't too much that it pushed me over the edge. So there was that. All right, then we had a fanfic that's actually on my 6-star reads, will probably be in my top 10 of the year, and that is In Silence and Submission by Jillian Eliza. This one, I say this as like, this was my new Contradictions, basically. So one of the very first fanfics I read was called Contradictions, and it involves BDSM, and it involves an enemies to lovers between Draco and Hermione, and then like through BDSM, there's like some healing aspects that happen, and Hermione's able to work through some issues she has like through this. And In Silence and Submission is a lot like that, except this is actually a friends to lovers. And now I have read very, very few Dramini that are friends to lovers, right? It's a lot of the enemies to lovers is what attracts us to this, you know, this type of fic between them is the animosity and the, you know, the opposites attract and the forbiddenness of it, right? Well, this one, they've actually been friends for a while, and Hermione has just recently gotten out of like an abusive relationship with Ron. He's very, you know, it wasn't a good relationship, and she's really struggling. And Draco, he, you know, they see each other at, they have a weekly dinner with all their friends. And he notices that whenever, like, Ron, he will show up at these, even though he knows it's her time with their friends. And one of the times, like, Hermione is going to leave, and Draco, like, puts his hand on her thigh under the table and is just like, stay. And he uses kind of a Dom voice on her, and she does stay. And later on, they have a bit of a talk. And number one, he, like, apologizes for, you know, using some like BDSM on her without her consent, but he's like, I just really felt for you. And after she does some talking with some of her other friends, who it discovers that quite a few of them have experimented with BDSM and or still do it, and she becomes curious about trying it out. So her and Draco start a friends with benefits, like BDSM relationship, which quickly becomes so much more. And there's a lot of healing that gets worked through in this. But it also isn't like over the top BDSM in this. This one also has some kinks that I really, really like. Like it has cock warming in it. It involves like restraints. And he's still like a very gentle dom. There's not a lot of punishments happening in this one. It's very just like letting her give over control, which is what she needs. And that place where her mind can go quiet for a while. So I love it. I'm a big, big fan. This was a 6-star read for me, and it's in my top fan fictions that I've ever read. I highly recommend it. Even if you think you might not like BDSM, again, it's not too over the top in this one. And the Dramini, like friends to lovers, and the whole friend group really, you know, besides Ron, is all wonderful. I love it. All right, then there's one I actually just read, which is called A Game of High Stakes. This one is by In Dreams. And this one is a very long one, I will tell you. This one got a little too long, as can happen with some fanfics, because it's like the authors maybe don't know when to pull it back, you know. But this one was a enemies to lovers, marriage of convenience. Draco is a double agent. They're both actually like assassins for their sides. And they end up in a confrontation where, you know, one of them could have killed the other one, and they're not able to do it. And so they end up communicating this way, and Draco kind of lets it slip that, like, well, they discuss that he is actually he's not really on anyone's side, I guess is the thing. Because in this version, the Order is getting a bit corrupt themselves. Like, the Order of the Phoenix isn't quite doing things the right way, and they're a little bit corrupt as well. So even if they were to topple Voldemort, Hermione is worried about what the state would be even if we did take Voldemort down. Like, would some members of the Order then be just as bad, but in a different way? And so Draco has a plan where he's going after Voldemort. That he's like, that is the mission of my life. But I still need to stay in the position I'm in because I'm able to be close to him and be in his inner circle. And so Hermione, the only way to not blow his cover once we get into a certain situation is they need to have it seem that Hermione fell in love with him. So they have a marriage of convenience. And now she's seen as a traitor to her side. So that's the basic setup of this. I don't want to go any more into it. I really, really enjoyed the first half of this. It was very suspenseful and I was super drawn into it. And then the second half took me quite a few days to get through because it did slow down quite a bit. But I thought this one was a unique setup. I really enjoyed the dynamics between these two, and I really loved the slow burn of their love story. Because, yeah, they get in this marriage of convenience, but then there's still the romance needs to build between the two of them. So there was that. And then actually the last Dramini I'm going to share, and now we'll go on to some other ones, is Cybersex, which is one I also read recently. And this one has been on my TBR since the last, I think since the last fanfiction readathon, like last year, because Tiffany from Tiff Talks Pages really liked this one. And this one is it's not like a short one, but it's a bit of a shorter one. And this is a real world AU, which means alternative universe. So there's no magic in this one, but it is characters from the world. So Draco is actually in college, and so is Hermione. And Hermione is a cam girl to pay for school. And Draco is one of her biggest fans. So he watches like all of her lives, which she does a lot of like reading. She reads poetry, she reads stories, and sometimes he'll pay for private sessions where she'll do a little more erotic things for him. But so he's basically someone who's like funding her schooling in a lot of ways. And then they go to the first day of a new class, and she's his lab partner. And he just about pops a boner right there in class, which is great. But also, he discovers that he's a little bit of a sub for her. And so when she gets snippy with him not doing things right, he starts getting really turned on with her, like bossing her around. So this one does have some pegging in it. It has voyeurism. It has toys used in this one. This one was really hot. This one is a porn fic, okay? It just is. But it has simp Draco at his finest. And we also have, like, I think Blaze and Theo in this one too are just great. So yeah, not high stakes in this one at all, the complete opposite of a game of high stakes, but just was so sexy and fun, honestly. I had a great time with it. Snape and Hermione one that I want to share, which is literally called doing it for the order. Let's see if I can find this one. In this one, Voldemort is trying to weed out any Death Eaters who might be traitors, who might be working secretly for the Order, which of course would be Snape. And so Dumbledore asks Hermione basically to be a sacrifice to this. And the way that Voldemort is making sure that this happens is that I think it's literally daily. I think it might be daily. The Death Eater will have to have unprotected sex with a muggle because he's trying to get people pregnant and keep having more magical babies because he's okay with half-bloods, apparently. And the way that they come around with this is like it's supposed to be with a different person like every day. And so they find a way to like change Hermione's like appearance every day so that it can just be one person that Snape is having sex with. He won't have to go out and like rape a bunch of people. He'll just have to be with Hermione. This one was an extremely complicated one, as it turns out. And so Hermione basically gets asked to sacrifice herself in this way so that he won't be raping a bunch of other people. So yeah, that happens. But I ended up really liking this one because they're like both forced into this situation. And yeah, it's very interesting. So, okay. There was the secretary. Okay, this one is a different pairing. So this one is a shorty. And this one is Pansy Parkinson and Percy Weasley. And it really is inspired by The Secretary, the movie with Maggie Gyllenhaal. And Pansy is Percy's secretary, and they end up having a sexual relationship with each other. And Percy, he doesn't feel like he's good enough to be married, so there's some angst going on with that. But yeah, it's just as simple and as sexy as it sounds, and this one is a pretty short one as well. But if you wanted to try out some Percy Weasley, which I know not everybody does, but this is one, a real quickie, and you can read this one. Then, this year, I decided I wanted to try out more Weasleys. You know, I don't want to read a Ron one. Nobody can really find Ron ones anyway. But I wanted to try out some of the other Weasleys. So I did read a Bill Weasley at one point, but that one didn't quite make this list. But I read Sudden Changes by Mrs. Marauders. And this one is actually a Fred Weasley and Hermione one. So this one involves a marriage law situation, but there's something else as well. So Fred and Hermione had actually ended up having a one-night stand at like, I can't remember if it was a party or somebody's birthday, but her and Ron had like broken up and she has a one-night stand with Fred. We don't think any more is going to come of it. Then this marriage law gets put out, and so all of the Weasleys are going to have to marry, as well as, you know, Hermione will need to find someone. Ginny and Harry are already dating, so they just go ahead and are going to get married, and like some of the other Weasleys are already dating someone, so they're going to get married, and so they're going to be like, okay, Ron and Hermione, you need to fix your relationship. You two should get married, and Hermione's like, interesting. But they do, of course, a pregnancy test to everybody first because you can have the choice of, you know, marrying the person that is your baby daddy. And it turns out Hermione's pregnant. And so her and Fred kind of out themselves and are like, we actually had a one-night stand. The baby's Fred's. And they're going to marry each other. So this one, I really enjoyed this one. It led actually to me reading like 3 or 4 other Fred Weasley and Hermione Granger ones. The only thing with it is that it ended up having a suspense element that I didn't really care for. So just wanted to put that out there. I didn't really care for that too much. And it got a little bit annoying. But overall, I really liked it. And I wrote down, I was like, this was part of my Fred Weasley and Hermione Granger binge because I ended up reading a bunch of those. Okay, and then the last one I want to mention was one that I absolutely adored. And it was funny because when I was making this list, I almost forgot about this one. And I can't believe that I did that. Okay, so this one is a Lucius Malfoy and Ginny Weasley one. Now, I wanted to put a Lucius on the list, but when I was looking at my Lucius, I was like, it actually isn't a Lucius and Hermione that I wanted to share. I wanted to share a Lucius and Ginny. So this one is called The Radiant, and it's by Fury Shashka. And this one, very interestingly, Ginny and Draco have actually been fuck buddies. They, you know, both work for, I think she is, do they both work for the newspaper? They both work in the sporting area, but I don't think she's a Quidditch player anymore. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But either way, her and Draco have been together, and they break up. And it's a mostly amicable breakup, but yeah, Draco kind of just like drops her, and she's like, okay, I mean, we were just fuck buddies, whatever. But she wants some of her special books back. There's some books that are very important to her, and Draco won't bring them back. So Ginny goes over to the house to get them, and Lucius happens to be there, and this and that happens, and they end up fucking in the library. And they begin this forbidden relationship between the two of them. And not just because she previously was with his son, but also because her family will no way in hell like that she's with Lucius. So this ends up being a very angsty relationship for the two of them, but you know, there's lots of people who are going to be against it. Like, Draco isn't going to be too thrilled about this. Her family isn't going to be thrilled about this. And there are a lot of obstacles from these two being together. And there is still, like, is Lucius really sorry about the things that he did during the war? You know, will they be able to make this work? And this one was very emotional. It dealt with family drama. There was PTSD that we worked through. And of course, this one was very sexy. Okay, there was some BDSM play in here. There's spanking, there's rough sex, there's some anal play happening in this one. This one has a lot of this stuff going on, okay? It's there. But this was one of the best fanfics that I read this year, absolutely. And it was a unique pairing because, again, I have only read 3 Ginny and Lucius pairings. They're pretty hard to find because that's not a popular one. I've read way more Lucius and Hermione ones, but really liked Ginny and Lucius together for this. So please give this a try if you're willing to try some unique pairings. So there we go. Those are some of my favorite fanfics that I read this year. Again, I will have links to their sites down below. I also have links to all the other fics that I've read over there. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more recommendations. I'll have more of my end of the year content coming soon, so make sure you're tuned in for that. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye.